Let your emotions be your strength instead of letting them control you. I am a neurodivergent who a lot of my life used to use my emotions as excuses for why I couldn't do this and why I couldn't do that. This just makes me feel so bad, and these people make me feel terrible, and I don't want to do this. And I had all sorts of excuses for why I wasn't achieving the things that I needed to achieve, first and foremost, but a lot of those excuses were rooted in emotions. I went through stuff. I think most of the neurodivergents who are going to be watching this video went through stuff. But the thing is, there's only so long that you can hold on to the feelings that you have been feeling when experiencing these traumatic experiences. But a lot of people have a tendency to say that you need to just kind of like let it go, bury it deep, and then be like, now you're a new person. Don't hang on to those emotions. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. It's not something that you can just do, especially when you're a neurodivergent and you are up at night thinking and thinking and thinking. And you know what? The reason why I really wanted to make this video today is because a couple nights ago, actually also last night, I was in my bed and I was thinking, just thinking, like my brain was just one big propeller going around, thinking. No matter how much I tried to think about all of the dreams and the things I want to achieve and all of the good stuff. I'm a pretty positive person, I'm gonna tell you that. But no matter how much I try to think about all of that positive stuff, there will always be a couple negative thoughts creeping in. There will always be some things about thinking about some person who did you wrong, or thinking about some things that you did that you could have done better, or whatever it is. As someone who is really into this idea of understanding that positivity is what attracts positivity, I think it's important to understand that that doesn't mean you have to be completely positive about everything all the time, especially not when you're experiencing negative emotions and when you are finding things within yourself that are hurting you or that feel wrong or that give you that stone in the stomach type sensation. And the other night I had a nightmare and I woke up in the middle of the night and I just kept thinking about people in my life. I kept thinking about my parents. I kept thinking about things that were not making me positive. They were not making me a better version of myself or whatever. I started thinking, there will never be a time where I won't have thoughts in my head that I'm not going to overthink. I'm going to be an overthinker, but there's a reason why I'm overthinking these things so much. Maybe there's a reason, maybe there's a valid thing that causes me to start overthinking. Maybe there's a reason behind it. Mind you, I said in the beginning of the video that I used to be this extremely overly emotional person. I'm the type of person I will cry. I think in high school, I almost won the award for this year's crybaby. And I think I got like third place. And I used to be the type of person who would cry so much. I would cry in class. I would cry in front of everyone and their mom because I thought that would make people understand my struggle better, and I thought it would make them accommodate me better. I remember I had this friend who had a clothing brand, and I was really into marketing. I, wanted to help him with his brand, and I knew how to do a couple things that could help him out. And I remember once we were out eating. Mind you, this guy had a pretty privileged, upbringing. His parents owned that type of house in the countryside where it's just a really nice house in the countryside. He was rolling. Maybe he wasn't the perfect person to give me advice, but at that time he was. And I started thinking about all of the things in my life that were going wrong. I started thinking about how I didn't have parents I could talk to about my issues because they were always talking about their own issues. I couldn't do the things that I needed to do. Everyone else was going on vacation. Everyone else were getting new things from their parents. They were getting Christmas presents. They were getting all of this, but I wasn't given that much. I was the one who had to give myself stuff. And I was frustrated. I was angry. Why me? Why am I the one who has to sit back and think about, oh, should I be able to do this? Should I not be able to do this? Why was I the type of person who I had to scrape together money to get myself my own computer. My parents were not going to be able to get it for me. And I remember talking to this guy. Mind you, he was the type of guy who's lugging around a Louis Vuitton duffel bag. And some people can say that that might be a little pretentious. I thought that too back then. But you know what? With the lesson that he taught me, I think it was in his right mind to carry around that duffel bag. Let me just say it like that. But I was crying in front of this guy that I was just helping out with marketing. Mind you, we were around the same age. I was 17 and he was 18, right? And I'm like, at this person that I'm essentially helping out with work stuff. We weren't close friends or anything, so that really made it really awkward. But I was comfortable crying in front of people. I was comfortable making it all about my feelings. And I just couldn't understand why people wouldn't take me seriously. But you know what? This guy, he said to me, he looked me in the eye while he was eating like some mussels and some fries. He was eating some mussels and some fries and just like, and then he said to me, you can either cry or you can work. And I was like, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. And I had to get my own MacBook and that's how I sound when I cry, guys. You don't want to hear me crying. And I was like so caught up in my emotions. I was like, if you've ever seen a little kid who didn't get an ice cream and then everyone else got an ice cream and now this little kid is like, I want an ice cream. That was me. Anyways, so I'm sitting and I'm talking and I'm like, I'm not really talking, I'm crying. I can't figure out why he's not willing to help me. This guy has it all. This guy has the nice house, the car, everything. And he's letting me do marketing for him. So that should be, maybe he would help me more. I was like, why are you not helping me? Right, whatever. And then he said to me, you can cry or you can work. That's something that I've brought with me ever since because it took me a little while to realize what he actually meant by that. You can cry or you can work. I started being able to work for myself. I used to have a job in a little knickknack store and it was really burning me out, having to get up for specific hours after my high school classes. I had to go to the job. I felt burned out, but eventually I ended up being able to make enough money on my own to be able to get the things that I wanted to get. I could buy myself I remember this moment distinctively. I bought myself a new MacBook, a completely new MacBook. I had the money to be able to buy that. And I was like, I'm getting this one and I'm getting it. And at that time, that was the most expensive MacBook there was. And I remember I felt this like, okay, I kind of get what this guy is saying because after having that conversation with him, I understood that it was not so much about me feeling these things, because feeling these things were valid. It is about understanding what these feelings meant and then working on them. I think today, there's a lot of misunderstanding about like hiding your feelings and not letting them come to the surface and you should just put them away like a man. But reality is, your feelings are there for a reason. We are feeling, we are heartfelt, we're empathic creatures, especially neurodivergents, for a reason. It is because our feelings, our intuition is a superpower. When you've been hurt, when you've been traumatized, these are heightened. And that is because you are going through a pain that is going to set you up. And you might not like me for saying this, for better. I'm not saying that it's all good and that you went through all of this trauma. It's of course not good. No one wants to go through that. No one wants to, have a parent who dies in an accident. No one wants to not grow up without having enough money. No one wants to go through that. No one should. But those challenges that make you react so outwardly are meant for you. And you can either treat them like they were meant for you to use to work on, or you can say that they're not your fault. And obviously, whatever you went through, it's not your fault. But you can blame all of everything that happened to you on society and blame your behavior in the future on society and say, well, it's not my fault that I ended up this way. The world did this to me. The world might have done that stuff to you. Let's just say it like that. The world might have done it to you, but now you're sitting here with all of this pain, all of these emotions. You need to use them. You need to use them to better yourself. And I didn't understand this for many years. I thought pain, no one's supposed to go through pain. But then I understood that I would have never, ever become so happy with where I am today, so certain of the things that I'm able to do, so passionate about sharing the things that I want to share, if it wasn't because I went through some things that set me up to expand myself and to become a better and bigger version of myself. If I had been born with a golden spoon up my, then I wouldn't have been able to think about these things as clearly. Maybe I would have tried creating problems for myself because I wanted to feel something. But I went through these things. I went through seeing my friends get things that I didn't get. I went through feeling that my family wasn't listening to me, that I constantly had to be a therapist to them. I went through spending time around narcissistic people that burnt me to the ground, made me feel like the smallest person in the world. And I blamed the world. I said, it's your fault. You did this to me. You made me who I am. It's not my fault. I can't change before you change. And I was so caught up in my emotions. These are just my emotions. This is just who I am. And I didn't realize it was the universe, the creator, God, whatever you want to call it, actually putting me in a situation for me to learn a lesson. These emotions, not the situations, the emotions that came with it, were put for me to learn. The greatest pains I've ever had have taught me the greatest lessons. And I wouldn't be without these lessons. Of course, I wouldn't wish any trauma on anyone, but I'm not someone who's gonna sit back and say, I went through all of this trauma, now give me a silver medal. No, I'm gonna say, what can I use these emotions for? Why are they here? I actually had this conversation with my own head today. Me and my head had a conversation. I was thinking about how every time an emotion comes up, every time I feel a little knot in my stomach, it's because there's something I need to work on. That's how I've been starting to see things. Every time there's a little something in my stomach that I feel is wrong, that I feel is bad, it's because I feel something that I need to learn. And today I was walking around, just checking out some stores, just browsing, just trying to get out for a walk. And I actually walked past a person that I used to talk to a couple years ago. And at first hand, I'm like, no, I shouldn't go up and talk to her. And I remember I walked out of the store and I'm like, that's weird. Why am I having this interesting feeling in my stomach? That's something I need to work on. Why am I having this feeling that, of course, I'm different now. Of course, I'm a different person. I don't want someone from my past to come ruin who I am now. And I knew in that moment, after having thought for a couple seconds, calm down, whatever you want to call it, I needed to go back. I needed to seek out the problem because it wasn't really a problem. It's not like she was a bad person or anything, but it was just more, I didn't want to sacrifice the person I had become because I needed to talk to someone I knew. And I was like, that's some BS. I'm not gonna become less of me, less of who I am today from just acknowledging that person. And you know what I did? I walked right back into the store. I walked by her and we're like, oh, hi, I didn't see you there. I had a couple minute conversation with her. And then I walked out again. And that feeling was gone. I understood that she couldn't take away from me the person that I had become. And I'm not saying you have to go chase bad situations or chase problems. Not what I mean. It's more understanding that when you're feeling something, it's a reaction towards something that you need to work on. If you're someone who grew up with money troubles, maybe you're someone who felt really bad about spending money on yourself, not spending money on just necessities or people in your family. When you go out and you spend some money on yourself, on other things that once necessities, you're gonna feel that tug in your stomach. That tug in your stomach is your body challenging you to challenge yourself. I used to be the type of person who I would talk so much about all of the things that I didn't have, all of the things that were not given to me. I thought that would make people give me more. But then when I worked on myself and I was like, you know what? They're not going to give me more. I'm going to have to give myself more. That's when things started to change. And actually, this is a lesson that I learned at the age of 15. I remember one of my best friends, me and her were always talking about going to Paris. We really wanted to go to Paris. You know, we were really into art. So we wanted to go see all of the museums. And I remember one day she told me, oh, my dad and I were going to Paris. And I was so distraught because I thought she was going to be taking me with her. I thought when we were going to Paris, it was going to be me and her. And I remember she came back and she gave me this art book, and I still have it in my closet. I've still kept it all of these years. She gave me the art book, and it was this really beautiful, very nice art book she bought for me in Musée d'Orsay in Paris. She bought that for me, and she took it all the way from Paris to give me. And I couldn't see the beautiful gesture it was because I was so clouded by the anger and the wrath that was welling up inside of me because she didn't take me to Paris with her. I felt like she owed me taking her to Paris because at that point, I had never left the country. I had left the country, but it was like for small trips, and it wasn't something that was big or crazy. It was just trips that a regular person would go on in a car but this was something to me that felt personal. Why didn't she take me with her? She knew I wanted to go. And you know what? Within a year, I had saved up money. I had bought myself a ticket to go on exchange, and I went on exchange. A couple years later, when I was 18, I went for summer to LA, and I took myself there. But I did that for myself. That anger that I had towards that moment, maybe it was that anger, it pushed me to see that that's not gonna get me where I wanna go. I can scream, I can cry, I can beg about her taking me to Paris. She would never have done it. I needed to take myself. I needed to do it for me. Those emotions was the catalyst. That anger, not towards her, it's nothing to do with her, but that anger made me realize how much I wanted something different. It made me realize how badly I wanted to do things for myself. And if I hadn't been that angry, if I hadn't been that sad, if I hadn't felt like everyone in my class were trying cool things and I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to put myself in a place where I'm like, I'm gonna get that. And I'm certain I'm gonna get there. That anger, that frustration, those long nights of me feeling bad because my parents couldn't just give me a trip. My parents couldn't give me what a lot of other parents could give their kids. That anger really drove it home to me that I needed to do it better for me. And I've had that emotion several other times. I've had it happen to me where I had a toxic roommate who was really not good for me, super narcissistic, very negative all the time. The feelings, the anger, the sadness, the repression that I felt being in that company, it was so bad that I started traveling and traveling and traveling. I would leave the house anytime I could. Anytime I had money for it, I would travel and I would travel and I would travel. I would spend weeks in London. I would spend time in LA. I would spend time anywhere I could go because I just didn't want to be in that situation. And that anger really brought that up. And if I'd never traveled that much, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of opportunities that I would never have gotten. And most of all, it would never have taken me to that breaking point where I had to tell myself and I had to get up and say, we're moving. Because I was so low. I was at my lowest at that point. I was at the lowest point in my life, being in so much pain, being so frustrated. I remember at that point, I started blaming my neurodivergence even more. I was like, it's probably because I'm neurodivergent. It's probably because this is wrong with me. It's probably because my brain doesn't work like other people's brain. The system is bad. Everyone around me is bad. All of this, all of that, right? I was at the lowest point that I've probably been since a couple other lower points. But that pain became so great. That frustration with the fact that I was in such a bad situation when I'd already brought myself so much abundance earlier made me take action. And if I'd never been that low, I would have never appreciated being this high now. If I'd never reached that mental low point of me seeking out the doctor, me seeking out everyone, me trying, like, overcompensating, people pleasing, over explaining, feeling like every single decision had to be talked to with anyone, crying on the phone, crying to everyone. If I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have come to the point where I am today. And as I said before, it's not about you neglecting your feelings. Never, ever, ever neglect your feelings. But there's a limit to when you should share them. That's one thing that I definitely learned throughout my emotional learning journey. When you overshare your feelings, which a lot of neurodivergents have a tendency to do, like overshare it, like, oh, I need to share this with anyone. You don't get it out, you don't work it out of your system. You just kind of throw it on the ground like a curled up piece of paper. And if you keep throwing curled up pieces of paper on your bedroom floor, you know what's going to happen? Eventually you're going to trip over all of these pieces of paper, and you're going to fall head down into all the curled up pieces of paper that you threw on the ground one by one, because you discarded it. You just tried to get rid of it. You tried to, just put it somewhere else. And eventually that's going to come back like a lawine, and it's going to cover you completely. And you're going to be stuck like a person who's going skiing and then falls into a ravine being like, ooh, I can't get up. That is why when you have feelings of doubt, indecision, you need validation, it is essential that you do not seek other people for that validation. You need validation from yourself. And if anything else, you can try to seek validation through faith. And I'm not saying you need to be religious or anything. I'm just saying it straight out. A lot of people find a lot of happiness and they find a lot of good stuff within believing. And I'm not telling you to believe in any particular religion. I'm not telling you to believe in anything but maybe yourself. Believe in yourself. That's also believing. But if you sit down and you work on yourself, you're eventually going to come to a point where you understand that you also need to be a little spiritual. You need to praise yourself for every single little bit of effort that you make. Did you go out of bed today? Dance, happy dance. Did you eat a nourishing, healthy diet? Happy dance. Because when you don't celebrate the small wins, your body doesn't understand that there's something to celebrate, and it's going to be starting to crave validation. And that's when you start going off to other people that don't need to be in your life for validation. That's when you text someone you haven't texted for many years just because you saw that they were online. That's when you start looking at people's Instagram stories because you need to feel something. Because you're going to start feeling something. You're going to feel regret. You're going to feel resentment. You're going to feel like, ooh, this person did me that and that. If you go on Instagram, maybe. You need to validate yourself for the efforts you're making for yourself. Start validating yourself instead of devalidating yourself. When you feel bad emotions, don't tell yourself, oh, they're bad, I shouldn't be feeling these. No, say, what can I learn from them? Embrace them. Be happy that these emotions come to you. When you start embracing happily, lovingly, the pain that you go through, that's when things are going to start to change immensely in your life. Because when you sit down and maybe a thought comes up, maybe you think about how your mom never really talked to you the way that you wanted her to talk to you. That's going to hurt. That's going to feel like a knot in your stomach. Instead of sitting there and letting their emotions take control of you, controlling the discourse and the direction of your life, calm down, take a couple breaths and say, thank you for bringing me that emotion. Thank you for giving me that to think about. Thank you for teaching me this. I love learning about this. I love that you brought me that emotion. I love that this emotion is here. If you have some angry thoughts about rich people, a lot of neurodivergents tend to have angry thoughts about powerful and rich people. When you get those emotions, tell yourself, thank you. I love these emotions. These emotions are great, because it's going to start training your body to understanding that every little lesson, every little thing that comes into your mind is a teaching lesson. This is not going to bring you more pain. It's going to bring you more abundance. It's going to bring you wealth. It's going to bring you happiness. It's going to bring you whatever it is you desire, because it's already out there. Everything that you desire already exists. You just need to make it clear that you are ready to receive it. And if you're constantly crying every time something bad happens to you, if you're constantly letting your emotions control you, then the universe or God or Morgan Freeman or whoever it is going to see it. And it's going to see you're not ready to receive that. When you continuously go through pain and pain and pain again, that is your body trying to expand itself to become a bigger version of you that can receive more. And it sounds super counterintuitive. But if I never went through the pain of crying in front of duffel bag guy, if I never went through the pain of not being able to go on that vacation with Paris girl, I would have never, ever been able to get to the point where I was getting the bags that I wanted. I was getting the trips that I wanted. I could go explore myself. I would have never gotten to that point. Instead of sitting down and crying about it, I still cried. I let myself feel the emotions. But instead of letting them control me, I starved them of the power that they had over me, that made me act impulsively, that made me act chaotically, that made me act manically. And I sat down and I said, thank you for letting me feel these emotions. Thank you for putting me in a situation where I can learn more about myself. I love feeling these emotions. And when I started doing that, suddenly things changed. Suddenly, I had the courage. I didn't have to go through as much pain as I had gone through before, because I understood that it wasn't about me not being true to my emotions. It wasn't about me suppressing them. I've tried doing that for so long. You should never suppress your emotions. It was about me validating my emotions by myself, understanding that my emotions are not me. My emotions are a reflection of something that I need to work on. And once I understood that they're a reflection of something I need to work on, I could start stepping into who I needed to be. Think about someone like Batman. You guys love me for this. I know that you guys do. Batman went through a bit of trauma. His parents were taken away from him at a very young age. Batman's not necessarily the most happy and functional mentally person that is out there in the fictional world. But I do like to use him as an example because Batman understood after his parents were taken from him that he couldn't just sit and cry in his mansion with his millions of dollars. He had to do something. Instead of letting his emotions control him, instead of letting them make him weaker, he said, I'm gonna let these guide me towards where I need to go. And they guided him towards bringing more justice, bringing more peace, and bringing more cool stuff, cool Batmobiles to Gotham. He followed his intuition. He said, why am I so angry? What is something that I need to do? What is something that I need to work on? And mind you, his emotions kept coming up. His emotions come up. But instead of him sitting there and crying and whining and being like, oh, everyone's against me, Gotham is against me, he said, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna fight some crime. I'm gonna take the pain that I felt head on and I'm gonna get something productive out of it. He didn't cry, he worked. And I always like bringing up Batman. Batman is my king. I love Batman. But I think truly he's a great example to use to think about how sometimes you have to understand that things are not, you have to be there with your emotions. You have to feel them and then you have to act on them. Not recklessly, not manically, understanding and lovingly. You have to give love towards the pain you felt. And that will ultimately heal you way more and take you towards where you actually need to go, because it will make you understand you're doing this for a greater purpose. It's not something you went through because the world is against you. You need to start thinking that the world is not against you, the world is for you. You have to switch that mindset. Anyways, this was a video that went very deep and was very philosophical. But you know what? I feel kind of about it. I feel happy that we talked about this. I would like to see you guys in my next video. And if this video really resonated with you and you would like me to talk about something else, if you would like for me to talk more about this, comment it in the comment section below and we'll go over it. I want to make content for you guys. I want to share my experiences. And I think sometimes you just got to be skinlessly honest. And I think that's what I was today. So I hope you guys really liked today's video. As anytime, I love you guys. I'm so grateful for you guys being here and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.